We will be finishing the previous chapter, the renunciation. Some discussions were left, and then we will do the next chapter. So, sitting up straight, closing our eyes, gazing up at the point between the eyebrows, calling out to God and Gurus to be here with us now. Let's pray together. Divine Mother, Heavenly Father, friend, beloved God, great masters of Kriya Yoga, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Sri Yukteswarji, beloved Gurudev, Paramhansa Yogananda ji, saints and sages of all religions, dear friend and guide, Swami Kriyananda, humbly we bow at thy feet. Dear Master, bless us, guide our every thoughts, every words, every action that we perform in this world, that they always be guided and be uplifting to our consciousness. May we always view this world as a place which is temporary and our home is with God. We are thine. Guide us home. Om Shanti Shanti. Shanti. So we will chant one. Today is we are in the Chaitra Navratri. So today we will chant to Divine Mother. This is a very sweet chant. It was actually a Bengali chant by a saint called Ram Prasad, who lived in I think 15th or 16th century. This was in Bengali. Master translated it into English. So let's chant this together. Will that day come to me, Mark? Will that day come to me, Mark? When sing, Mother dear, my eyes will flow tears. When sing, Mother dear, my eyes will flow tears. Wisdom's lotus will blossom forth. Wisdom's lotus will blossom forth. Darkness will steal away, steal away, steal away, steal away, Mom, steal away, steal away, steal away, steal away, Mom, steal away. A thousand Vedas to declare, Divine Mothers everywhere. A thousand Vedas to declare, Divine Mothers everywhere. Shri Ram Prasad says, Shri Ram Prasad says, Divine Mother everywhere stays. Blind minds see the mark hiding everywhere. Oh, blind eyes see the mark hiding everywhere. Will that day come to me, Mom? Will that day come to me, Mom? When sing, Mother dear, my eyes will flow tears. When sing, Mother dear, my eyes will flow tears. Wisdom's lotus will blossom forth. Wisdom's lotus will blossom forth. Darkness will steal away, steal away, steal away, steal away, Mom, steal away. Oh, steal away, steal away, steal away, Mom, steal away. A thousand Vedas to declare, Divine Mother everywhere. Prasad Singh, Shri Ram Prasad Singh, Divine Mother everywhere stays. Blind eyes see the mark, hiding everywhere. Oh, blind eyes see the mark, hiding everywhere. Will that day come to be more? When sing Mother dear, my eyes will flow tears. Closing our eyes, gazing up at the point between the eyebrows, tuning into the sweetness of this chant. Will that day come to me, Ma, when saying Mother dear, my eyes will flow to you. That we reach that point in our devotion, just hearing her name, just saying her name, we start crying, wanting only Mother, only the Divine Mother to be with us, not really caring for the toys of this world that she has given us, but just to be with her all the time. The Divine Mother loves us all. It's an unconditional love. But do we love her enough to want only her and nothing else? No one else. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So, we were in that chapter renunciation where we had discussed what the main point about this whole concept that Master is talking about here, renunciation on the spiritual path, whether we are outwardly a monk or a householder. But what is more important is when you come on a spiritual path, what is the purpose of being on a spiritual path is to transcend ego. So renunciation is more of an inner, in the heart, to let go of attachments, to let go of desires for this world, so that we can achieve what we came here for. That's the whole point, right? So, so last where we left is where Daya Mata talks about this, where she said that I think I'll go out and take a job because I have to take care of my mother. And Master said, okay, then go, just leave. And when she said, but what do I do? I can't think of a life outside of this place. Then she kind of passed the test, and that is when he later on the mother came and stayed with them until she passed away. I think somebody's audio is unmuted. And Master took care. So the whole point is, uh, as Jesus Christ used to say, seek ye the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added unto you. The moment Dayamata said, I can't think, I mean, I only want God. And that is when her purpose was to find God. And yes, she still had certain duty. Master took over. Master took care of other, necessities that were needed. So it was not like, no, you just leave everything and then just be here. He took care of that, her mother. So we go further. So there are various things that he's talking about here. Swamiji says, nothing won Master's approval so much as a willingness to renounce all for God. Again, this is about non-attachment to the worldly things, to letting go of those attachments, desires, and wanting only and transcending the ego. That's important. Renunciation meant to him, however, an inner act of heart, and it is not so much, somebody we often see, there are monks who wear monks, but there's still so much of ego in them. Even that act of becoming a monk, they think that they are somehow superior to the householders. So, that itself is still affirming ego. And here, when he met in this renunciate who said, who is all wearing rag dresses, not taken bath, and he says, I am a renunciator. It was like, for him, it was kind of a status symbol. I am a renunciator. Master said, no, but you are bound again by your attachment to disorder. So these are very subtle. Patanjali, in his, the Yam Niyam, the one of the niyam that he had given is cleanliness, shaucha, right? And it works on various levels. So outwardly, we still have to be clean, taking bath and wearing clean dresses, yes. More than that, it is about, uh, inwardly, when we see that we don't allow the outward, whatever is out here. Master said nothing is wrong outside. I mean, the world God has created, how can it be bad? But everything has a place. I mean, it's like, outside, if there is, mud in the garden, we don't call it dirt. We say, oh, that's a soil. But if we bring it into the house, somebody walks in with their, dirty mud splattered chappal inside, then we say, oh, the house has become dirty. We bring it in, then it is a dirt, right? Similarly, for our heart, for our mind, we allow this world to enter in and disturb the way, the heart's feelings, and we are like agitated, or we are attracted, and that is, that is not being clean. And similarly, the mind, if it's inharmonious thoughts, we are in, constant, there's anger, there is worry, and there is fear, depression, moodiness, all these are not being clean. It's not clean, because that is not our true nature. Whenever we are not, being in our true nature is not being clean, right? So we need to watch all that. So that's what Master said, that ultimately the renunciation has to be in the heart. It's not so much what, you are wearing a garb of a brahmachari or brahmacharini or not, doesn't matter. And it goes on to say that for this present age, prejudice as it is against many aspects of spirituality, he counseled only moderate adoption of the outward symbols of renunciation. If you see many of the pictures of Master, he's wearing nice coat, suit, and all. There'll be a small, orange color handkerchief that he would have put in his pocket just for this thing, because it didn't really matter for him. He was so completely free. He didn't have to keep up any pretense of, outward garb, because he was in a place which in India, I mean, you find a sadhu, people respect that. In America, and we are talking early 1900s, where there were not many Indians, and it was a highly materialistic world. So he already had a long hair and all. On top of it, if he were to go around in a garb, it might not be acceptable. His whole purpose was to make them understand, I mean, to bring that balance in this world, to bring West to these introduce ancient teachings of yoga to them. So whatever it needs to be done, so he need not keep this outward if it will make him more acceptable. So he would wear a coat suit and go. It didn't matter to him. What was important, that he bring these teachings to the West. So that is why he never insisted you have to dress like this and all that. Perhaps he felt that these symbols might attract too much attention to oneself, and thus feed the very ego which the renunciate was striving to overcome. Right? He would always, and Saint Francis used to say he is the patron saint, right? Who used to always say, like, there was he loved lady poverty, and Master said, I prefer lady simplicity. So see, that's a difference, right? Because we are now entered an age of Dwapar Yuga, ascending Dwapar Yuga. It was okay. In those days, even in India, it was about world rejection. The renunciates used to reject anything about this world. Now it is like, it is God's world. It's world affirming, yet remaining a renunciate in heart. So he would say, make your heart a hermitage. It was not so much that he rejected outward forms. Some of the traditional forms, indeed, he favored. His primary concern was that we use them to internalize our devotion. These are the very important points. And when he's talking about renunciation, he was not only talking to the renunciates, the monks and the nuns. It is for, because this path is about householders, right? Lahiri Mahashaya was a householder. So, and the whole purpose of Babaji sending him back was for this, to show how we can live in this world, but not of the world, still doing our duties, our responsibilities. So, advice master used to say, don't mix with others too closely. The desire, why do people interact with, want outward companionship, is a reflection of the soul's inward desire for companionship with God. So we don't realize that it is all, for that we seek outside. What the soul is actually wanting, we seek it outside in this world, which is never perfect. It's never going to give us the satisfaction, that contentment that God, the realization can give, right? And then he says, that's where he's saying, seclusion. He said, seclusion is the price of greatness. Though mental withdrawal may not make one popular with less dedicated devotees, like how Daya Mata used to be called half-baked saint, but he said it is very important, and this can be our takeaway. We are this Sunday, we are in Gurgaon also. We are planning to have a half-day silent retreat. So to just get an idea, what does Master mean about being that? So this is something as a can be a takeaway that we can do on our own every day. In fact, like, you can keep certain time, start with maybe 1 hour, half an hour, where we are completely away from, not attending to phone calls, not picking up our phone to check whether some message has, because these days that's the main distraction, right? um, uh, uh, find a time where we are completely alone, no one interacting with, we are not interacting with us. And when we are saying alone, the more we start practicing that, even thoughts will start settling down, because we can be away from people, but still, how do you get away from those racing thoughts in our mind? But slowly, as we start training the mind, and developing that muscle of being alone. So it's that is also a practice. So it's a good idea to start. Master has highly recommended. Seclusion is a price of greatness. Dhyanaji used to say that in Ananda, all these Naya Swamis and all, when they were in Ananda village and they were all staff there. So there is 1 week paid seclusion time they were given. All of them who were staff, this is a necessity that they all take 1 week off and and live in seclusion. So it's a very important aspect. We are on this path to practice this also. And Master was always talking about to watch against those three principal delusions, as he would say. Anything else, he would say, "Oh, you will overcome it. Don't worry." When the ecstasy comes, but these three, he was very, very, very insistent that to take care, to make sure, because they can take a person away from the path completely and get back into delusion, and it can take maybe not even this lifetime, multiple lifetimes before we can even start coming back. So to be careful about this. So money, he says, the desire for money, right? He said, contrasted to the joys of non-attachment and simple living. So he's saying, renounce attachment to all things. It is not really having money that is a problem, right? We need to understand this. Rajrishi Janakananda, who was Saint Lin before he was given this spiritual name by Master, he was multimillionaire in those days, 1920s. He was the one who really, got Master's organization on a comfortable financial condition. He was multimillionaire. So it was not having money that is a problem. Attachment to money is the problem, right? He's saying, don't work with the thought of what you might get out of it. How to get over it? He's saying, what comes of itself, let it come. Work to serve God and for the supreme satisfaction of pleasing me. Even if you are in an outside corporate world, work so that, think of that also as a service. That the people who are working under you, you're serving them, their families, to have a comfortable life. The more we live in that way, and there is a difference between passion for that work versus this wanting to make money, that being the guiding principle. So this is what very important. He says, watch against it. Related again, he's saying desire for money is the ambition for worldly power and recognition. They are all interlinked. Why do you want to have more and more money? Because it gives you a certain power. The more we live with our thought that it's God's power that's flowing through me, the more we live, again, it is all about non-attachment. In all your actions, he's saying, see him as a true doer. Seek to please him only. The more we live with the consciousness of being in the company of God, doing things for God, doing with Him, or Him doing through us, the more we will be free. So again and again, I mean, this is the most important point. We are in this world. We do have certain responsibility towards, if we are householders, towards our own families, and But the more we live non-attached to what we are doing, is how we will be free, not get caught up. Says desire for wine. Again, he's used the word wine, but what he's talking about is any intoxicant. What are we trying to do when somebody uses any of this intoxicant? He's saying the soul's deep-seated longing to escape pain and suffering. And in this, somebody who's so caught up in this world uses the intoxicants to dull their mind, and that ultimately leads them to fall down in a spiral. It worsens. He urged the students to escape the delusion of worldly life, not by dulling their minds to its sorrows, but rising above them in the higher intoxication of soul joy. So these are, I mean, he's giving very practical tips and a deeper understanding of how you can get caught in the delusion, and how one should live again in this world, but not of this world, not to get caught up in this world, right? The more you taste God's joy within you, the less taste you will have for those mere masquerades of ecstasy. Where he used to say that when you taste actual cheese, the stale cheese loses its power over you. There is also where he's talking about this the disciple one time had been an alcoholic, and he told master, I drink every day, I need to have. Master said, yeah, that's okay, you can continue have, but he said, I can cannot guarantee you that you will continue having it once you start enjoying doing your kriya. And that is what happened. He would sit with his glass of whiskey and kriya mala and other, and the more he started feeling that the power of kriya, he threw it. I mean, these are stale things. I mean, you don't need it anymore. It's overcoming. I mean, it is not, no, I should not do this. I should not do that. I should not eat non-veg. I should not, rather than, that is like curbing yourself, and you're never satisfied with that. Instead, Master said, do Kriya, do more Kriya, do service, be in the presence of God and Gurus. It will fall off. All these things will automatically fall off. So that is the power of Kriya, actually. And he's saying in sex desire, Master saw not merely the physical procreative instinct, but the soul's longing for union with God manifested in the need for a human mate. So that longing for union with God is what we are seeking out in this world outside, which really, again, it's like, it can never satisfy us the way the union with God, when we are one with God, that kind of ecstasy, which is as Shankaracharya, Adi Shankaracharya said it's Satchidanand, and Master explained that. I mean, he defined Satchidanand as ever existing, ever conscious, ever new bliss. I mean, you don't tire of that. It is ever new. It's constantly, changing rather, but yet very, very stable. But Yogananda was particularly averse to feeding people's illusions. It was his goal to demolish them. So he says, remember, he advised us once, it is the Divine Mother who tests you through sex, and it is she who also blesses when you pass her test. Ramakrishna Paramahansa, when he was very young, the family got him married. He told his wife Sharda Ma that I look when I look at you, I look at Divine Mother. You are like Ma to me. Anandamoyi Ma also, when the family forcefully got her married, and the husband, he tried to come close to her and then got a shock, is what electric shock we read at in the autobiography of a yogi. Then he fell at her feet saying, "I'm so sorry for even looking at you that way." Then after that, he became her disciple all his life, and he was a Moni Baba. He never spoke, and he used to serve her. He used to look at her that way. That is the power of that kind of renunciation that Anandamoyi Ma had, or Ramakrishna Paramahansa had. So he says, he counseled his male disciples to look upon women as living embodiments of the Divine Mother, like how Ramakrishna Paramahansa said. They are disarmed when you view them in that light. And Swamiji says that I was never present when he would have counseled the nuns, and I never had could even go and ask them, because they never interacted so much, unless and until there was some work that they had to do together. So it was their master made sure that the men were in a different area and women were, there was not too much of interactions happening there. And Master would say, for only by deep divine respect for one another can men and women win final release from the magnetic attraction. So this is how the nature is made, right? So there is a magnetic attraction that draws them to seek fulfillment in outer rather than in inner divine union. So it is a power, it's a force, it's a magnetic force. That is how Maya functions. So all we have to do who are on the spiritual path is to be careful, to be watchful. We know that this exists. So what do I have to do in order to move further in the spiritual, in our spiritual journey? Again, there are another helpful practice, Swamiji says, is to avoid hugging others. Again, the moment we hug others, there is a magnetic connection that happens, right? Hugging is usually, in any case, a very superficial way of showing affection. I tell people truthfully that I feel more closer to them when I embrace them inwardly than. So, this the beautiful practice of how we do in India, Namaste. I bow to the soul in you. This is a beautiful practice that we are letting go in, we are, Indians are getting more and more into the way the Westerners do. Swamiji would, at some point he started wearing, a tag here saying, consider yourself hugged. So he would avoid getting hugged by people, and he would write that here when he would have a satsang and all, consider yourself hugged. So, so these are, again, as I said, there is a definite force that these are very subtle. So these are helpful tips that Master has given so that we can avoid getting caught in that, right? In the monastery, Master permitted no social contact between the monks and nuns. When necessities of the work demanded communication between them, he counseled them not to look at one another, especially avoid looking into the eyes. Also, to keep their conversation brief, impersonal as possible. Very, very important again, because eyes are very, very magnetic. There is a exchange of energy that happens through the eyes. So we need to be very careful. Master would say that when you, if you are with your, you are a coach, you have your very close friend, your family, it's okay. Otherwise, when you are talking to somebody, look at their spiritual eye, or in the general direction of their face or the sides, but don't look into anybody's eyes, because there's the magnetic power there. And if somebody especially is very negative, or in a very world consciousness, but they are very good, uh, strong magnets, they can draw us towards them. So we need to be very careful. We are all fledgling aspiring yogis. So how, when there is a little sapling that has come, we need to protect it. We have to put a fence around it so that nothing comes and eats. We have to water it. We have to take care of it. And similarly, we who have come on the spiritual path, who have just started in this lifetime at least, we need to take care. We need to protect this till, at master's level, so many people would come, all kinds of people would come. uh, they are not swayed anywhere, because they are huge magnets themselves, completely free. till we reach that level, we need to continue protecting ourselves. So he has given various tips to take, and this is not just when Swamiji, because he was living with him as a monk, so he is talking about that, but it is applicable to all of us. You should not okay, like how Swamiji, he went and opened the helped nun when she was carrying a lot of things. He went and opened. Master said you should not have done that. Keep your distance and they will always respect you. So he was very strict on that. It's only when one strives to overcome delusion that one discovers its primal power. So you see, the more somebody who is on the spiritual path, they are tested more by Maya. The power of Maya starts working on them more. They are the ones who are like, there are these topics of in satsang topics of Swamiji has how disciples rise, how disciples fall, because she's also watching. She's also keeping an eye. The moment she says, oh, this person is soaring, she'll start using all her power to pull that person back, because her job is to keep this world going, right? So that's the power of Maya. And so as he's saying, as soon as one starts striving to overcome delusion, one discovers its primal power. So he's saying, catch the first thought. In any of these three primary that he said delusions, he's saying the first thought. Why? He's saying, a woman once told me that her little daughter, while still a toddler, had a special giggle when she affected only in the presence of little boys. So these are deep, instinctive, and generally not specifically directed responses. You see, we have been, this is not the first lifetime, right? We have been living for a long time, different lifetimes. So these are all deep, instinctive tendencies that all of us have. And similarly, for alcohol or any other intoxicant, Master said it might be the first, time you're taking alcohol in this lifetime, but we don't know what was in the past. So even that first one here can make somebody an alcoholic, because they carry that tendency from past. So that is the reason he's saying catch the time. The first time the thought comes, he says catch it. That is when we need to stop, because we don't know what we are carrying and how we can get caught, right? He was most particularly referring when he spoke to the tracing temptation to its first. So years of introspection, Swamiji writes, have shown me that if one can catch this subtle first response, so rarely even noticed by most people, and immediately impersonalize it, the thought of attraction virtually vanishes from the mind. So Swamiji is now telling us as a disciple who has worked on it. No, Master has told us do like this. Then Swamiji has experimented with it. So, this is very important for us. What did Swamiji do? Master gave this advice. What did Swamiji do about it? He said that he used to introspect. What can I do? Master is saying this. What can I do? He says, show me that if one can catch this subtle first response of attraction to the opposite sex, or to any intoxicant, or getting attached to anything of this world, he says, and immediately impersonalizes, detach yourself, the thought of attraction virtually vanishes. One is not safe from delusion, Master said, till one has attained the highest nirvikalp samadhi, which is being jivan mukta. You're completely free from all karmic things of this world. So even in savikalp samadhi, which is like you touch that state of samadhi and then you come back. The ego has still not transcended. Those who have got into savikalp samadhi, they come back because the ego is still not transcended. He says the yogi can't fall even from there. So in fact, for them it is more, because they have tasted that state and then they feel, oh, I have experienced that. I know I am that. So since they have not yet transcended the ego, they can the fall is really big. So the Master is saying till you reach nirvikalp samadhi, you can get caught anything by through anything. So one has to be very, very careful. Okay. And this is a beautiful thought of Sister Gyan Mata also, where Master, that person from India had come. Initially, he thought, he doesn't have to even acknowledge her. But when Master told about her, and then he goes back and says, oh, Forgive me, please, for that I failed to pay you that respect that, we all respect our women as wives and mothers. A beautiful answer. I mean, these days we find, women saying Women's Day, so many other things that we say, Mother's Day, Women's Day. So giving nothing wrong in that. Even that has to be celebrated. But she has gone beyond that, right? She is trying to just, be free, find God. So when in that state, when she's beyond being worldly, what does she say? She says, at least half the people in this world are women. Most of them sooner or later become mothers. There is nothing in either fact that merits special respect. But you may, if you wish, respect the fact that in this life, I have become a renunciate. I mean, that is her level of, being detached from even that. I mean, okay. I mean, in the soul's journey, every soul, we are women in some lifetime because that is our prarabdha karma. We want to experience certain things. So we come as women in that lifetime. We would have been man in some other lifetime. So the soul is beyond all this, right? So we want to, get free from all this, not to get attached to any of these identities. So that is the main purpose point that Swamiji has written this point about. The final word, dispassion, does not mean indifference. Now, this is something we all need to be very careful about. The saying that detachment is not being indifferent to the feeling of others. Not everybody is, very evolved. So each one has his own. Everybody, the destination is one. Finding God is for all souls. That's a final destination. But everybody is in a different state in their journey. And we need to respect that. We can't just say, oh, I am meditating, so I am something superior to these people. And, oh, that's stupidity. I mean, it's like if there is a child who comes to the mother because the child is playing with a toy and the wheel of that toy broke, and she comes crying to the mother just doesn't say, oh no, this is useless, don't worry, it is just a toy, it is, that's all Maya, don't get bothered. No, the mother will take it very seriously and she will make sure that she makes it okay and give it back. Master takes it very seriously. Any of our problems, whatever it might be nothing, but for us at that moment, we are children of God, we are children of Master. For us at that moment might be very important. He takes it seriously. So he is not indifferent, saying, "Wow, you have to find God. Don't worry, forget it." He takes us seriously. The moment we rush to him, saying, "Master," he is very concerned about it, right? About us, his children. Divine Mother is very concerned. So when we are on this path, again, same. Being indifferent doesn't mean we have to be, indifferent. I mean, detached doesn't mean we have to be indifferent to the feeling of others. Concern for them is an important way of expanding beyond the confines of ego consciousness, for it helps one in any effort to eliminate the ego altogether as a focus of one's awareness. Master always used to say, don't be in that consciousness, ask for no more. You're just my family, that's about it. I mean, in the autobiography, also, the last chapter, he writes, God, you have given me such a large family. And when he was taking his vows of monkhood, his guru Sri Yukteswar said that now you have a larger family. So it is not like the renunciation doesn't mean that oh, it's only about me. That's again being selfish. It's about me alone, not nobody to. It's just an expanding, impersonal, unconditional love. That is God. That is what all of us have to. That's where we have to reach. So. It is a more expanded state of awareness is what we need to live in. Okay. Again, he said that fire, for example, so he gives an example of fire, the Dayamata. He says, though she was also, working at it, but there did seem to be a problem there because the moment somebody wrote a letter with all the criticism, so these are very subtle points he's making. So she didn't bother what that person said about others, but about herself only she pointed out saying, but what he says about me, I don't care. That means it does matter, right? So he's saying these are subtle points. But true renunciation of ego includes not thrusting oneself forward. That letter, he says, Her reaction to the opinions voiced in that letter was confined instead to those whose concern, which concerned herself. Others, for what that person had written about others, she didn't bother. But what that person had written about her, she did react to it. So these are very, very subtle things that all of us have to keep watching out for. So, what Swamiji has pointed out is dispassion means disinterest in any benefit to oneself, but it doesn't mean lack of concern for the well being of others. In fact, towards the end of his life, Swamiji wrote a very beautiful book, Renunciate Order for the New Age, where he has written, he's listed what it is because the Naya Swamis and the monks. So he has listed what does it mean to be a renunciate. I hope, I mean, we do have this book in our center. To read it, it's an amazing book that tells us what does it mean to become be a renunciate. So the whole point is to ego transcend. I mean, Naya Swamis are married people. So what does it mean to be renunciates in that also? So how do we do it? How to transcend the ego? So, I mean, I think we wouldn't have time to discuss all that, but if you can, please do read that book also to understand this point more. Because again, he wrote this book. He said, now we are in the ascending Dwapar Yuga. So it is not about world rejection, but world affirming and yet being detached, right? So he had written this Nayaswami order in that. Incidentally, the first time he wrote, and the first Nayaswami order was given here in Gurgaon only, where many of those people had come from another village and taken, and that's what that they wear that blue, right? That was first ceremony happened here. So with that, let us read the next chapter. It's a short one. It's a very sweet one, and we'll listen to Swamiji reading this. God protects his devotees.
Activities. Norman entered the dining room one day at lunchtime, looking stunned. "This morning," he announced shakily, "I was driving the big flatbed truck down Mount Washington. As I came to the steepest part of that hill, I stepped on the brake to slow down for the hairpin turn at the bottom, but my foot went right to the floor. I pumped frantically. Nothing happened. By this time the truck was going so fast I couldn't shift to a lower gear. In moments I knew I'd be hurtling to my death over the edge of that steep embankment. Desperately I prayed to Master, 'Is this what you want?' Suddenly the truck slowed to a complete stop. The brakes still weren't working, but I was able to park safely in gear and curb the front wheel. What a blessing," Norman continued, "to have a God-realized master for a guru." As disciples of a great yogi, we often found that we had only to call Master mentally for misfortune to be speedily averted. A year before Norman's miraculous escape, Jerry Torgerson, another disciple, hitchhiked into Los Angeles. This mode of travel went against Master's advice, but Jerry, like so many other young Americans, had been practically raised on hitchhiking. He needed more than Master's casual proscription, evidently, to change his habits. "3 guys picked me up," he told us. "We were riding along when suddenly, how, I couldn't say, I knew they were criminals. 'I want to get out right here,' I told them, but they wouldn't stop. After some distance we left the main road and drove through open countryside to a secluded house. One of the men got out, the other 2 stayed with me in the car. I didn't know what they had in mind, but I can tell you I was plenty scared. I started praying to Master for help. Well, the first guy went and knocked at the front door. No answer. He went around the house, knocking and calling at every door and window. Still no answer. By this time, the two men in the car were getting worried. "Let's get out of here," they called out nervously. The first fellow came back as nervous as they were. We all drove back to the main road, and there they let me out. The moment I'd slammed the door behind me, they rushed off at high speed. I never did find out what they'd had in mind, but I had the strong impression that they were planning to use me in a crime. I said nothing to anyone about all this. After church the following Sunday, I went up to Master for his blessing. The moment he saw me, he scolded, "You see, Jerry, I told you not to hitchhike." I had to close the ears of everyone in that house so no one would hear that man when he called to them. 7 months later, Joe Carbone and Henry Schaufelberger, now brothers Bimalananda and Anandamoy, were plastering the Lotus Tower that forms the archway entrance to the SRF church grounds in Hollywood. Joe was mixing and carrying the plaster. Henry, at a height of about 20 feet, was traveling it onto the wall. The ladder Joe was using was set at a steep angle. On one climb, as he reached up to grasp the top rung, he missed it. The heavy hod of plaster on his shoulder began pulling him backward. Now he was unable to grasp the rung with either hand. A 20-foot drop with all that weight on his shoulder might well have killed him. Realizing that it was too late to save himself, Joe thought urgently of Master and chanted out loud, "Om." Both men later testified as to what happened next. As Joe was chanting, some invisible force pushed him slowly back upright. A moment later he was able to grasp the rung again. Gasping with relief, he completed his climb. Andy Anderson, the foreman on this job, was a professional carpenter and builder who had been hired from outside to oversee our work. He knew nothing of our philosophy and often chuckled at the thought of working with, quote, "all these yogis." But there was no doubt in his voice when he told me how he had witnessed an uncanny instance of protection. "Why you guys don't all get killed on this job beats me. You just aren't careful enough." I was standing right over there one day when someone on the scaffold dropped a long 2x4 without even looking below him. Another of you yogis was standing underneath, for all I could tell, not even minding his own business. The 2x4 struck the ground at such an angle that it couldn't possibly have missed him in falling over. It might have killed him. "Look out!" I hollered. Just then that 2x4, leaning in his direction, mind you, stood back upright and, so help me, fell over in the opposite direction. I know I wasn't just seeing things. And he ended up by becoming a lay disciple himself. James Collar told us of another hitchhiking incident, one in which he and another monk gave a man a lift. The two monks were in the front seat. When we picked this man up, James said, there was no room for him in the front, so he sat in the back. Some minutes later, as we were driving along, I suddenly heard a voice in my inner ear, "Look out, he has a knife." I turned around quickly. The man was leaning forward, a fiendish expression on his face. His hand was upraised, holding a knife. He was on the very point of striking the boy beside me, who was gazing ahead unsuspectingly. "Put that knife down," I commanded sternly. The man was so astonished that he obeyed me. I stopped the car and he got out without a word. In the 60 years now that I have been on this path, I cannot recall to mind a single instance where a disciple of Paramhansa Yogananda has failed to find protection in time of real need. Considering the length of time involved and the thousands of disciples I have known during this period, this is quite an amazing record. The most striking of these cases occurred among those who had placed their lives unreservedly in the Guru's care. Dr. Lewis told of an episode similar to Norman's when, on a cold winter night in Massachusetts, he had been out driving to a meditation meeting. With him were two fellow disciples, Mrs. Laura Elliott and Mrs. Alice Hazy, Sister Yogamata. Suddenly, as they approached a narrow bridge, they found their way blocked by another car that had skidded sideways across the icy road. A crash seemed inevitable. At that moment, Dr. Lewis said, we felt as if a giant hand were being pressed down on the hood of the car. We slowed instantly to a stop, our car still safely on the road. Senor J.M. Cuaron, the leader of the SRF Center in Mexico City, related the following incident to me. I was badly in need of a job, but for a long time could find no work anywhere. Then one day an excellent offer came from a company in Matamoros. Taking that job would mean moving away from Mexico City. I therefore wrote Master to request his permission to put the SRF Center in someone else's charge. My letter was, to me, a mere formality. I was sure Master would congratulate me on my good luck. Imagine my surprise, then, when he replied by telegram, no, absolutely not. Under no circumstances whatever accept that job. I admit I was a bit upset, but even so I obeyed him. 1 month later the news came out in the papers. The company that had offered me that job was exposed for fraud. Its officers, including the man who had taken the post I'd been offered, were sent to prison. He hadn't been aware of the firm's dishonesty, just as I would not have been. Because of the position he held, however, he was imprisoned with the rest. It was only by Master's grace that I was spared that calamity. Tests there must be in life, of course. They come especially on the spiritual path, for if devotees are to escape the coils of Maya or delusion, they must learn the lessons they need to develop in wisdom. Master didn't shrink from giving us whatever lessons we needed to grow. For example, although on that occasion he saved Senor Cuaron from ignominious arrest, he never helped him to find the employment he so badly wanted. Senor Cuaron, in fact, had enough money to live on, simply, as became a world-renouncing yogi. Master evidently saw no good reason to help him return to his former levels of opulence. But our tests were always blessings. Outright misfortune Master spared us. And where a test was not required for a disciple's spiritual growth, Master often removed it from his path altogether. I remember how he de-jinxed a student, not a close disciple, who was having trouble earning money. It was Jean Haupt's brother, Richard. Not long after Master's intercession, the man became quite well-to-do. In 1955, I went to Switzerland on a lecture tour. There I met a lady from Czechoslovakia who told me a story concerning Professor Novitsky, the late leader of a small SRF group in Prague. One day, she said, after Yogananda's passing, a stranger came to Professor Novitsky and requested instruction in yoga. The professor didn't know what to do. Normally he kept his spiritual activities a secret so as not to expose himself to persecution. If this man was a genuine seeker, the professor would want to help him, but if he was a communist government spy, any admission of interest in yoga might result in a prison sentence for him. Our friend prayed for guidance. Suddenly, standing behind that self-proclaimed devotee, Paramahansa Yogananda appeared. Slowly the master shook his head, then vanished. Professor Novitsky told the man he had come to the wrong place for information. Some time later, he learned that the man was indeed a government spy. I am free to tell this story now, my informant continued, for the good professor died recently of natural causes. On January 5th, 1959, my own life was spared in a remarkable manner. The incident took place in India. I was preparing for a religious gathering in Dakshineshwar outside Calcutta, for which event Dayamata was to be the principal speaker. Part of my task was to set up the loudspeaker equipment. With both hands I grasped the microphone boom to move it. Suddenly 230 volts of electricity shot through my body, lifting me right off the ground. Involuntarily I cried out. Such high voltage tightens the muscles, making it impossible to release anything one is holding. Unable as I'd have been to let go of the metal boom, I would have been killed instantly. Just at that moment, inexplicably, the fuse blew. The function was delayed half an hour, till another fuse was located, but my life was spared. The only ill effect I suffered was a slight tremor of the heart that lasted 2 or 3 days. Other occasions there have been. One was at the men's retreat at 29 Palms. I was out walking one day when all of a sudden a flock of crows began circling around me. I thought, this surely is a bad omen. 2 days later I unmade my bed. I'd been sleeping out on the patio, preparatory to leaving. Between the sheets I found a squashed black widow spider, the sting of which is often fatal. Death must, of course, come to everyone sooner or later, but I have been struck by its beauty and dignity when it has visited disciples of this path. A member of our Hollywood church congregation died of a stroke. His wife later told me, in his final moments, my husband whispered to me lovingly, "Don't feel badly, dear. I'm so happy. And I see a bright, bright light all around me." Another church member who had known the Master since his early years in America exclaimed at the end of her life, "Swamiji is here." Her face was radiant. It wore a blissful smile. And Sichiganamata's last words were, "Such joy, too much joy, oh, too much joy." Disciples who have died of cancer or other painful diseases have left their bodies peacefully, with a smile on their lips. People often point to the sufferings of humanity as proof either that God doesn't exist or that he doesn't care for his human children. Paramahansa Yogananda's answer to that charge was that people don't care enough about God to tune in to his help. Indeed, by their indifference they create the very problems which later they lay accusingly at his door. If in daylight a person moves about a room with closed eyes, he may bump against a piece of furniture and hurt himself. By closing one's eyes to light, one creates his own darkness. By closing one's heart to love, one creates his own fear, hatred, or apathy. By closing one's soul to joy, one creates his own misery. In case after case I have seen fulfilled Yogananda's promise that faithful devotees of his path would be protected. For those who stay in tune to the end, he added, I or one of the other masters will be there to usher them into the divine kingdom. Truly the words of the great Swami Shankaracharya have found justification in Paramahansa Yogananda's life. No known comparison exists in the 3 worlds for a true guru. It is perhaps the greatest sign of God's aid to his devotees that when the soul yearns deeply for him, he sends to that soul the supreme blessing of a God-awakened master to guide it along the highway to infinity.
The beautiful, very sweet chapter. Not much. I mean, it's more to soak in and understand that God protects his devotees, and through, I mean, the last line of this chapter, which says that God sends the Guru. So Guru is a representation of God. He's a channel for God. And the first story that he's saying, and in that Swamiji writes, when Norman said, what a blessing to have a God realized master for a Guru. And then he said, as disciples of a great Guru, we often found that we had only to call master mentally for misfortune to be speedily averted. Now, this is very important. Now, when somebody is going, suddenly something happens. At that moment, it's very difficult to remember this, right? So the more we practice this in our everyday life, uh, even when good things are happening, we have this constant conversation. That is why it's the most important thing is to be in tune. Attunement is a very important aspect on the spiritual path. The more we live in that presence of God and Gurus, constantly communicating with him, having this conversation going, we will be able to remember it when the need arises. So it has to happen. It can't just during that time that one will remember. So the constant practice has to happen. I mean, there's this beautiful story also of Krishna when who had come to help Draupadi. She cried out when nothing worked for her. Even the husbands were unable to help, and she cried out to Krishna. And then that's when the yarns of cloth come in, and Uddhav was one of his disciple, and he had asked Krishna that you didn't go when Yudhishthir was losing in that dice the game. He said because he didn't ask for it. It didn't strike Yudhishthir to ask for help from Krishna. Otherwise, all that could have been averted, but he didn't ask for help. Whereas Draupadi remembered in that time because she was always living in that presence of Krishna. When once Krishna said that, why don't you meditate, Draupadi? She said, yes, Krishna, I would love to meditate, but what can I do? All the time I'm only thinking about you. I'm not able to, get off that. Krishna just smiled. That's enough. That's more than enough. All the time, if she is living in the presence of Krishna, what else does she need? So she could remember in that moment of trouble, and he was there to help. This is what is very important. And you see here where he talks about that foreman says that I don't know how you guys don't get killed. That place was blessed. Master's presence was there. They couldn't have been killed. So there's all these stories of the 2 by 4 suddenly standing and then falling off in other directions. The whole place. So if we live in our house, like Swamiji would say that your house, treat it as the house of master, and as if we are the housekeepers of that master's house. The more we live in like that, as if this is a temple of master, his presence is there. Everybody is protected, even if your family members are not on the path, but being associated with this being master's house, they are protected. He takes care of everyone. It's not just the disciple, but everybody who is associated with them. He takes care of them. So and here again, this is also very important where Swamiji says, in the 60 years now that I have been on this path, I cannot recall to mind a single instance when a disciple of Paramahansa Yogananda has failed to find protection in time of real need. Considering the length of time involved and thousands of disciples, he says it's quite an amazing record. I mean, this is an amazing statement that he has made. The most striking of these cases occurred again among those who had placed their lives unreservedly in the Guru's care. These are important, hints that Swamiji is giving that, one, practice it, calling out to Guru, and that can happen only if you are practicing, living in that thing, as if this is Master's everything, this Master's world after all. And also giving your life unreservedly. That is the main point. Okay, Guru will help me during my meditation, but this aspect is I have to deal with it myself. That aspect I have to deal. It doesn't work that way. Everything he's in charge. The more we live like that, he comes, right. That is how the story of Dr. Lewis life. The other stories also of how he was caught in the storm when he was going on a boat. There's so many stories. Sinor Quran, again, he's the same person. Swamiji says that once he and Senor Quran were walking, and Master came and he said to Senor Quran, I lost sight of you for a couple of incarnations, but now that I have got you, I will not lose sight. And Swamiji said that many times when Senor Quran would meet Master, he would say, Master, don't forget your promise. And Master would say, no, no, I will not. And Swamiji, in one of his talks, said that, do you really think that Master would have lost sight of him? Of course not. I mean, God and Gurus are always following a soul's journey. They never lose sight of this the disciple. What would have happened is that disciple, for those couple of incarnation, would have said, no, I want to enjoy this world. I don't want to get caught in that spirituality and all. So he said, no, I don't want. And God and Gurus have given us the free will. So we say, no, I am fine, I am happy, I want to enjoy this. They wait, they stand back. So that is what must have happened. And now that he's back, he is also ensuring that Master doesn't lose sight, and Master is also ensuring. And this is a very nice story. Master takes care of our needs, not what I want. There is a difference. I might want anything and everything. He is taking care of what is needed. And where he, in this case, he's saying he had ample money to take care of him to live simply. But nothing short, he was not short of money. So Master didn't bother to get him another job. Well, he didn't need it. He was a renunciate, and whatever he needed, he had. But where he was going to get caught, he immediately intervened. Again, in that, he says, I admit when he received a telegram from Master saying, no, don't take up that job, he is upset. He says, I admit I was a bit upset, but even so, I obeyed him. Again, this is a hint, we would have to, so Master, we ask in meditation, we might not get that answer, what we want him to answer, or we talk to maybe Dhyanaji or somebody, and then, the answer is again not what we want. Many times people would say, oh, they still go ahead and do it. It's very important. I obeyed him. What Master is saying, obeying. A lot of this things, Swamiji has planted these hints for us to take, understand, and go ahead. And again, he's saying that the tests are always blessings, outright misfortunes. Master had promised. Colossal suffering I'll take away. But even the tests that come, it is a blessing for our own spiritual growth only. Like Babaji in autobiography, we saw where he was sitting with his disciples, and there was this log. They were doing some havan, ancient Vedic havan. He picks up a log and puts it on one of the disciples. And Lahiri Mahasaya is there. He says, Master, how cruel. He said his karma is that he has to die of burning. Do you want him to see it? Do you want to see him going like that? So Babaji, because he was working on his own spiritual progress, and the disciple had himself evolved so much, there was no need for him to go through that. So he just put that log and then put his hand on it, and it disappeared. That's it. So that's why he says that where a test was not required for a disciple's spiritual growth, Master often removed it from his path. Why? When does a test not required? It is when the disciple, through his own spiritual practices, has understood those lessons. He doesn't need those lessons. Karma comes to us, the tests come to us to teach a lesson, that unlearned lessons is what it is, right? But if he has learned it through his own understanding, through his own wisdom, through his spiritual practices, he doesn't need it anymore. So he takes it away. There's no use for that, those things. And then he talks about various other things where Swamiji also had near fatal experiences. He says, okay, again, he's saying that tests, Master doesn't take completely all of them away. Some tests that we still unlearned lessons, but those lessons we need to understand to progress spiritually, he will allow it to come, right? So we have to trust Master in that. Okay, so now again, he's talking about when he spoke about his own near fatal experience. He says, death must, of course, come to everyone sooner or later, but I have been struck by its beauty and dignity when it has visited disciples of this path. And we also saw, like very recently, Nayaswami Anandi, Nayaswami Seva, And there was one more Nayaswami Tushti who was here. She had been here in India also. She was one of those first ones who had come and taught us Ananda Yoga. And she had cancer. So just before she was going to go off to the US, she finally left her body. She had come here to Gurgaon also. When we went and met her, nobody would even realize that, the body was being ravished. She was glowing. So, I mean, it was just a and Nayaswami Seva, she also passed away very recently. So she also, she was doing Seva, her name, she went back to her home and she just passed away. Beautiful. Nayaswami Anandi had cancer, but towards the end, when she left in the hospice, somebody was there with her, and he said that, she moved her head in a way like how we do in higher Kriya, and she left the body. And Swamiji writes, there is a dignity and beauty in that death. Why? Because as Master has promised, for those who stay in tune to the end, I or one of the other masters will be there to usher them into the divine kingdom. It's a promise of a self realized master. The more we are in tune, the more he's there taking care of us in life and also in death. Like how all these um, devotees, disciples like Sister Gyan Mata and others, they saw light. They saw she left saying joy, so much joy. So it was, I mean, the husband who said to his wife, I see light, because the master and or one of the gurus are ushering them in. So trusting them even in death. That is, I mean, there is a book that Naya Swami Asha has written. It's a basically compilation of all those stories of different disciples on the path in Ananda itself. The book is also, I think it is also called God Protects His Devotees. Beautiful book with all those stories of people, how they have experienced that protection. So it is a promise of a master. It is the more we are in tune, the more we live with that faith, with that complete trust to this guru. We are loved and protected. Thank you, Namita. Loved and protected. It is not God protects his devotees. It's called Loved and Protected. It's a beautiful book again. Now, so these are constant reminders for each one of us. With that, thank you. Thanks for joining. We will meet next Friday for the next chapter.